Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. And Victor, I think we're going to start it first with you.
Thank you.
Tough one right there.
For having me.
What started peacefully eventually became a case where people were injured, blood spills here and there. Can you tell us what really happened?
Well, I'm still trying to get my voice because one of the major effects of that tear gas, I don't know if that's what happens afterwards. Like you rightly saw in that report, the police were actually there from the very beginning to ensure that there was orderliness, maintain security and all of that, just to protect these guys and avoid infiltration from what they call agberos and stuff like that, just to ensure that everything went as smooth as possible. But I noticed from when they were marching towards the State Assembly complex, the police services accosted one of the leaders of the protest, Taiwo Hassan, who we all know as Soweto, and appealed to him that the protesters should at least use one side of the road and not block the entire carriageway, because the vehicles can no longer, but he bluntly refused and said, I mean, you can't continue to hound these guys. You guys can't continue to make them go through suffering. A lot of people have, died in the process, and this is what you're telling us, And the police officers left them alone until they marched to the State Assembly, where, he instructed all of them to sit down on the floor so that they could have some level of control over the crowd, because they were really much. They were really, really massive. And they were just doing their normal announcements. Everybody were giving their testimonies, talking how protesters do, and trying to wait for the legislative guys to attend to them, but none of them came forward, and they said that they were going to be there until somebody attended to them. But eventually, a few legislators, only wanted 1, 2, 3, or 4 persons to come into the complex, but they all refused, and they said they were all going to go in there. Otherwise, nobody's going to leave to see anybody, because you know how these things turn out eventually. They wanted to see the end of the entire thing. And just about 20 minutes later, I mean, nobody knew, because I was having discussions with a lot of persons around. These guys, to be honest, it's a peaceful protest. Peaceful protest involves just marching, carrying placards, and simple as ABC, no violence. But people will say things. If you saw what the commissioner said, that they were insulting him, I just smiled.
Yeah,
at
but
that,
he said
basically.
he's trying to work on the pressure.
Well, but I know that there's a level at which you can take some of these things.
Yeah,
He really
sure.
got pissed off, when the kind of names you were calling him and all that, and the fact that he said they were sitting
On the road.
and not allowing vehicles to pass. But your own vehicles, also blocked that way for reasons personal to you. So that was not tenable, if you ask me. But 20 minutes into the chants and all the noises these guys were making, I was just by the under, because the sun was so much. I just went by under the tree just to get some fresh air. It was a canister I met just right in front of me. And it's okay to fire 1 or 2, okay, if I could use that just to scare them, but it was so much. You could count as much as 20 canisters.
Wow.
Just flying all around. And that's too much. That's way too much. And a lot of them were scampering for safety. I felt pity for women who came all the way from Makoko, Neri, Jegunle, Barega with their children. In fact, one of my cameramen was asking me, why would this guy be bringing babies 6 months, a year old? And the reasonable argument would be that these guys are the major victims, where they don't have a home, and they're just here to just raise their voices. And so when those canisters were flying, they were all running. Some of them were stomping on themselves. So you saw the injuries, and some of them really got injured. And the canisters, of course, pierced through the chin of one of them, so there was some kind of laceration. And when I went to visit her at the hospital in Lagoon, and I was told, the doctor actually told me that they can't treat that case there because it's beyond their control, and then she'll have to be referred to another hospital at Ikoyi for plastic surgery. So these are some of the issues. That's the ones we know.
Wait, did you say surgery?
Yes, plastic surgery.
Oh.
And they said nobody was injured.
Yes, of course. When the incident...
And the police still said nobody was injured.
Yes.
Well, the commissioner of police was here last night, and we asked him. He said he's not aware anybody was injured. After all, nobody had made any report. That was why deliberately in that report placed it on his statement to see it himself.
These people show him the visuals.
He did. But you know how it is. After he said, since there is no formal complaint, he will assume that there was not something.
Professor.
Okay, yes. Let's bring in Professor now. You've heard everything. You've heard his side of his eyewitness experience to this, what some refer to as a mishandling of Nigerian citizens. The people of Makoko are human beings that have a dignity of human person, but they've been treated less than human persons, many would argue. But let's get your reaction.
Well, from what I gathered, it's not just the Makoko people. They talked of Owodo Niri, Ayotoro, Oku Egbo, and Oku Baba were mixed up in that protest yesterday. And all of them were asking for a relief. They are asking for resettlement that has a human face, a humane resettlement. We have seen this administration demolish places, and they will tell you they are shanties. And when you go there, you see massive structures that they are destroying. I think it's one too many. And look at the one that happened in Festac, the one that happened in complex. And that one they came to tell us it was the same thing that was close to maybe the waterway or what have you. And we have it on good authority that that was wrong. And recall too, that of Festac, that of Trade Fair. That the Trade Fair complex is a federal Trade Fair complex. It's not state. The state have nothing to do with that. They have said it a number of times, but they still, and those of who they demolish their properties have all their documents. Now, in this, let's face the one that we are talking about now, the Makoko area. I learned earlier because I've listened to a youth from that place, a youth leader, who said they just connived with some of their others and maybe ballets and what have you. And at the end of the day, they are asking them to bring documents. And the guy is asking, these are traditional homes.
Right.
Which document are you asking for us? We don't have C of O's.
Professor, let's hold our thoughts for a bit. We want to go on a very quick break. And we'll come back from the break. We'll pick up from where he's left off. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're still discussing the outcome of the protest that happened yesterday, as well as the casualties that have resulted. We're still joined by our correspondent who experienced this live. He was tear gassed. He's managing to talk this morning. Management to give him nice warm milk to help clear his throat. But on a more serious note, Professor Nna is also here with us. Professor Nna, you were talking about, before we went on the break, that they were asked to produce documents, and they said, we don't have C of O.
Yeah, they don't have, because these are people that have settled in that place for decades. And they are traditional home, for them. And recall that these are a good people. Some of them migrated from Togo, some from Republic of Benin, and they've been there for years. So at the end of the day, I don't know what document government was. The one that pains me is what police is saying, that they are using minimum force when you are tear gassing people. May I remind the police force, Nigerian police force, that minimum force in other clans means water, not hot water. Because if you say water now, when they will start with hot water. It's cold water. That's what nations use to disperse the crowd. Now, tear gas cannot be considered minimum force. Let me remind them that in 2003, that the former Senate president, Okadibo, was killed in Kano with tear gas. Please tear gassed him while he was campaigning under the platform of ANPP. And he died out of that. He didn't survive it. So don't come to gaslight us that you are using minimum force when you are using tear gas. You are using force. You can only say that you are not using maximum force, but you are using force. Okay, look at that yesterday. From the eyewitness account, somebody was taken to hospital, and even the hospital rejected her because they said they don't have equipment to treat her. She needs plastic surgery. And they are saying there were no injuries. I don't understand. This, lying syndrome, it's becoming one too many. Why are we living in denial? Things happen and you know they have happened and you are living in denial. It is very, very wrong. The police should learn that world over today, they don't use tear gas to disperse the crowd. They use water to disperse the crowd, not tear gas, please. And from what we heard, they used more than 20 canisters of tear gas yesterday. Look at the crowd. Under that hot weather, and you are using up to 20 canisters of tear gas. I mean, that's not acceptable anywhere in the world. So the government should please look into this matter and find a way of settling these people. Where do you expect them to go? The visuals we are seeing is people living in their boats. No, this is, I mean, even if you want to build whatever you want to build, mega city or whatever, no, you don't start this way now. You make plans for some of these things. Before you demolish places, you resettle these people. And if you are resettling them, they are not refugees that you're now put in one IDP camp. No. Do a proper resettlement. Because they are human beings, like you and I. They are human beings. That they are living in that condition today does not mean that we have had people from those areas that have made this country proud, even in football and what have you. So what are we saying? Please, government should look into that matter. Stop this rhetoric. I don't like it. The government is not helping matters. The demolition in Lagos is one too many. Let them hear it loud and clear. It is one too many. And in most cases, okay, this time around, the people are even saying that they were not given proper notice. But I like the governor said they were given notice 2 years ago. There should have been a reminder, even if you had given notice 2 years ago. Did you do a reminder? In some cases, in that of Iyana-Oworo-Onshoki, they went there in the night while people were sleeping. No, these things are not acceptable. Governor, please, let your demolition have a human face. If you must demolish, you must be humane in doing that.
Anyway, it's a sad one. But let's come back to Victor. Victor, with everything that happened yesterday, after everyone was dispersed, what happened next? Is it that everyone started, finding their way? And where do some of these people, where do they live currently? Because they've all left that area. Where are they currently? Where do they settle?
Okay, so, well, the story, nobody knew that there was going to be a tear gas incident. Yeah, I mean, you would have probably heard so much more from the respondents, how they've been living their lives and all of that, until this tear gas incident changed the entire narrative. Some of them live with friends, some of them stay under the bridge. These are their own words. They live under the bridge. For those who have shops who do business, they now hawk their businesses. So if they sell water, they now hawk water. And after the day, they go back under the bridge and sleep. You would always have to find a way out, because at the end of the day, the government really won't come to your help. So they've just, I guess they couldn't take it any longer. It's a pain that they've been living with. And when that tear gas incident happened, because you saw the way they were coughing. I mean, some of them have medical conditions, to be honest. Imagine an asthmatic patient being in that place at that time. What is going to be top of his agenda is to find how to get the safety and treat himself or herself. You probably never see them around. It just, I mean, the canisters were so much that they dispersed under a few seconds, and I'm pretty sure that wherever they settled, they were still trying to get their breath, trying to get themselves. So it would take probably several minutes or several hours to get themselves. So they all went few. Those who were lucky, who really didn't get into the thick of the action, went to visit their comrades at the hospital. I met some of them at the hospital, sticking around, giving them hope and motivation and stuff like that. And that's it. They all went to their homes.
The baby, a baby they said died. We saw, yes, during the raid at Makoko. Okay. So I saw them holding her picture, the baby's picture, during the protest and so on. The government, when he spoke, the Governor Soweto, when he spoke about the incidents, it was during the budget presentation with members of the press. So we could rightly say then, when the governor was speaking, he had no knowledge of the death of that baby during the raid. But currently now, it has been made clear that the baby died during the raid, and yet nobody from the government has spoken and expressed, pain or sadness that a life was lost in the process of trying to evict these people. From the protest as well, I'd like to also get your view. Let me go to Professor first. Prof, what does this tell about the government and people relationship? I mean, you also, you're a journalist from time immemorial, and you've worked hard in terms of penning words that would express and convey ideas from people in the high echelon down to those who are followers. What does this mean?
Government and governance should have a human face. With what is happening today, I think governance in Lagos doesn't have a human face. And it's so sad that Lagos is called the center of excellence. It should be excellent in everything, not just excellent in collecting taxes. It should be excellent in everything they are doing. Now, somebody died, a child died. Who knows what that child would have become if he had allowed, given the opportunity to live. But the life was snuffed off that child, and nobody had deemed it fit to console the family. Now, at times, you see, I said it here before, in my place there's a proverb that if you carry the corpse of another person over the compound of other people, they will think it's a log of wood. But if it is their person that is dead, they will know that it's a human being that is inside that casket. So please, government should look at the plight of Nigerians. See, we're not even looking at the economic effect of what happened there. That's a fishing area. That is going to cause the cost of fish now to go to the rooftop. People that like fish in Lagos are going to suffer it. Because at the end of the day, those fishermen and women have been debarred their livelihoods. What do you expect them to do? Where do you expect them to go from here? They have lived all their life from the birth to adulthood in that place. That's the only place they know. Fishing is the only business they know. Where do you want to take them to? That's the question that government needs to address. Where do you just want to leave them that way? And life goes on? I said it here before, that government in Nigeria, in particular, does not think about the citizens. They always think about the next election. What they are thinking now is 2027. They are not thinking of human beings. They are losing their lives. They are losing their means of livelihood. It's unfair, very, very unfair. Please, Governor Sonoli, if you are listening, please have a rethink and let the things you are doing have a human face.
Anyway, my final question will go to you, Victor. Journalists, you had colleagues around there as well, and this was widely covered in terms of trying to propagate the message the displaced persons were trying to pass, especially to the government. At any time, was there any presence of anyone from the government house? I mean, it's not far off from our studios. Any presence of anyone from the government house?
You mean at the protest ground itself?
Yes, at the protest ground.
Oh, well, yes, we had a few legislators come out to see if they could appease a few of them and talk to them. But the rest of the crowd didn't want, they felt that that could be some kind of sabotage. They want to be in the mix of whatever conversation you are having. And they just wanted a few of them to just come into the chambers, let's talk, but they don't want that. You know how these things work. I think that was where the police just felt, okay, these guys are not ready to back out. They really want to go all the way, and that was what majorly prompted, the fire of the canisters. Maybe they got some information from the top and said, hey guys, let these guys leave since they don't want to talk to us. But I want to make allusion to the question you raised. Honestly, we've seen this happen before, where the state governor or leaders pay blind eye or very less attention to the plights of the citizens. We saw that happen at the GNI building when the popular fire accident at Balogun Market. I was fortunate to also cover that incident, and I wanted to ask the governor a question only for his aide to quickly take him out. or let him leave. I mean, you were just standing almost opposite or in front of the wrecked building. You cannot tell me you don't know that there are human beings under that building. And his excuse was, because it just passed blame games, his excuse was that, we've told them before, stop doing this, stop doing that. Now this is what has happened. I mean, when I heard that from, I was like, But there are people under this rubble for crying out loud. I mean, is that the next thing to do to start blaming against? So I wanted to ask the question and then they took him out. So when this happened too, you cannot tell me the governor does not know that people who were killed or who died as a result of the vicious and the brutal force used by the security agents while, administering their jobs. I mean, you talked about a baby, there's several of them. Yeah. It can't just be a baby. There's several persons still at the hospital. Some of them you had, some of the respondents say, some of them are the mortuaries. The governor cannot tell me he doesn't know these things. It's impossible. So what they do basically is just to turn a deaf ear to it. And, just as it is, the entire matter will just fizzle out. And that's not how to lead the people you swore to serve and protect. Very sad situation. Well, I want to say thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining your voices. And Professor, you've made that plea to the governor, very apt. We do hope that the governor will be able to react. This is a sad situation. It's like taking a cookie or a biscuit from a child and then telling the child not to cry, and when the child comes to you to complain and plead that you return it, you beat the child on top of it and even inscribe some marks on the child's body. Because that lady now, like you said, needs surgery. Who's going to pay for it? Where's she going to stay and so on and so forth. So it's double wahala, like Fela said, for dead body. Double one. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming. Thank you so much, Joe, and thank you, Lee.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.